A technical audit consists of a number of different aspects. The first one being speed. Site speed is very important. The first thing that I do is I run the site through GT metrics, and I get a report there. That typically consists of things like minifying CSS and JS scripts, optimizing image sizes, implementing a CDN if the site's not already using one. And there are a couple of other different things in there of what you can do, but mainly it's just about getting the larger things fixed. I think sometimes people can go a little bit overboard on fixing all of the tiny issues, but as long as I'm very much an 80-20 kind of guy. I'll fix the 20% that drives 80% of whatever I'm looking at. So site speed was one. The structure of the site in terms of like site categories and how things are laid out. So I remember on the first site that I bought, the site wasn't really set up in any particular way. Just had like a blog roll on the homepage, and that was kind of it. So spend a lot of time recategorizing all of the posts into, smokers, grills, barbecues, accessories, recipes, that kind of thing. And then reworking, so creating custom category pages for each of those categories then. Changing up the homepage design so we can utilize any homepage link juice to send them through to those custom category pages, and then they flow down through to the individual posts within each category. The other thing which I spent a lot of time on back then, which kind of you don't have to do so much these days because of Spencer's Link Whisper plugin, was internal linking, and that was all done manually. So essentially the first thing I did in order to restructure the site was create a spreadsheet of all the posts, and that became like my master working document where I then added in all of the categories. And then I would go back then and I would create virtual silos. So all of the content within smokers, for example, would be internally linked. And I'd track all of this in a spreadsheet. So I'd keep a track of all of the anchor text that I use for each post, how each post is linked to each other. That took a long time. I mean, on a site, as you keep growing it, to keep adding internal links like that is quite painful. But like I said, these days with plugins, I mean, Spencer's even added the feature recently where you can click the box to only show internal links to the same category. So that's great for keeping those links siloed. And then the other thing then is just about creating an About Us page, a more in-depth About Us page, and creating like authority for the website, I guess, that trust element. One thing which we still use and we used back then was thispersondoesnotexist.com. It's essentially a website which auto-generates images of people that look very realistic. It's like an AI generation tool. And you can go on there and you can press refresh until you find an image of someone you think looks like they would be into smoking and barbecuing. And you can you take that person and then you just create a whole persona around that person then. I don't think, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think this person actually doesn't exist. So I don't think there's any issues with using that person as your persona for the website. And yeah, that's kind of what I mean by fixing all of the technical and on-site issues there.
And for the custom category page, I've put together a couple of these. I just want to make sure our definition is the same. So can you explain what you mean with the custom category page?
Yeah, sure. So WordPress standard category pages, I think, are a little bit terrible. They usually if you have a lot of posts, then they have lots of like page indentation issues there where, you go to page 2 and it's another URL for Google to crawl, and it's sometimes not set up correctly for self-referencing. So I would like to create an actual page, a WordPress page, where I can lay out all of the posts on the same page. They're not page indented. And then I always have a nice unique content added to the top. So there's an introduction about, if it's smokers, what are smokers, how they've developed over the years. So you've got some nice unique content on there. So Google actually recognizes this is an actual page rather than just a list of posts. And then always make sure that I redirect the old category page, so the /category/smokers to this new page, and I replace that category page in the menu with the new custom category page that I've made.
Perfect. That's exactly the way I've done it in the past, and it just gives you more control over really making sure every page is accessible. There's no orphaned pages. So you potentially, I imagine, on your homepage, you have a link to that custom category page. The custom category page has a link to every one of the posts or pages or any URL on your site related to that category, right?
Exactly that.
So
Yes,
it's never more than two clicks away from the
exactly. Yeah,
homepage.
and yeah, that's one of the tests I always do, is run it through Screaming Frog, and they've got a nice click depth analysis tool in there, and it's so easy to see how many clicks away things are from the homepage, and always try and get things within 2 clicks of the homepage.
Very cool. And when you do, I think one of the top things that you mentioned was to internally link a site, which, I mean, people did a pretty bad job with it for a very long time because it's a pain to do. I mean, it's easy
Yeah,
for someone to publish a new piece of content, link to old stuff, but the big missing piece is to go back to the old post and then update it.
yeah.
So when you do that, did you usually see an immediate uptick in rankings and traffic and just you could tell that you did something?
Yeah, for sure. So every time I make a change on the page, I always resubmit it in Google Search Console for recrawling. If you internally link something, the change is pretty much. I feel like it used to be quicker. These days, it seems like honestly, you could submit it a while back and you could refresh the tracker within 10 minutes and you'd see a change. It's not so quick these days, but definitely within sort of within 24 hours, you can see a change there.
Did you often make on-page changes to the content at the same time you were doing the internal linking, or was it like two separate processes?
Two separate processes. So essentially, the internal linking came after everything was done. So once the posts were created, I'd updated on my spreadsheet, and it wasn't a case of, okay, I've done one post today, and now I need to internally link it. I would essentially, build up a bank of posts. So I might have 5 posts. I've added them to my sheet, and mainly it's because, like you say, it was a pain. It's like kind of like the last thing you ever do, and then I would go back and do a couple at a time. So it was just that one-off change.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. And did you see sort of different reactions for the different sites that you've had where some really sort of jumped in traffic and earnings and then some were a little lackluster? Any like big highlights and then actually any failures where it didn't work as well as you thought?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I can't really think of any which kind of took off instantly after just doing that. I think it's a combined effort of the technical stuff and then just working on the content and continually to work there. One thing which I guess is a failure, which I think people tend not to talk about too much in terms of their failures, but this one is a great one, and I would imagine it caught lots of people off guard, and it's to do with keyword intent rather than duplication. So I had a website where I was pumping out lots and lots of content, so much so that inadvertently I was cannibalizing the content, but I didn't realize. Because, for example, if you think of two keywords, one is best golf balls for old people, and one is best golf balls for seniors. They have the same intent. Whereas if you run them through a keyword research tool, they'll have different search volume and they'll have different competitiveness. And on the face of it, they look like two independent keywords. And I mean, a couple of years back, you used to be able to get away with having two individual pages like that, because Google didn't quite understand the intent was the same. So I had this site and I had lots of content and it was doing very well. And then all of a sudden, something changed in Google where they could obviously understand this intent a little bit better. And the site started dropping in rankings. And I couldn't really figure out why. It was dropping lots of traffic, until I realized that this was probably what was going on. I had lots of content covering the same topics. And that was a real pain to try and work out. So I had to go back to my master sheet, which I keep of all the posts and all of the primary keywords. And I spent days Googling every primary keyword, analyzing the first page of Google to see what results were actually showing rather than what I thought would be showing, and then making a list of all of the ones that cannibalize each other, and then making a plan to either merge that content and set up redirects, or to delete that content and just set up a redirect. And it was a mess, to be fair. I mean, it took a long time to pull that plan together. And then it took a long time to plan out how to merge everything and actually physically do it. So I guess that was a failure initially. But then as soon as I fixed that issue, traffic came back. It's been going strong since. But it felt weird because I felt like I was doing everything right. I felt like I was doing all of the same steps I've always done. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what's going on here? But yeah, that's a very important check that we do with all of our keyword research these days, for ourselves and for clients. We always do that intent check. We always Google every keyword, and we always look at the front page to see what results Google are returning, just to make sure that we've got the keyword right, but we've also got that intent correct as well.